Hey everybody, just wanted to share an experience that I had a few months ago, and I've been watching since then because the Lord had told me to be watching this type of scenario play out this coming year. And the experience that I had was there were a group of leaders. I saw a group of leaders standing before the Lord, and the Lord was about to share something about Himself that was very important to know for these end times. And as He began to open His mouth, He began sharing these mysteries of Jesus Christ. But 92% of the leaders thought it not be that important to know more about Jesus during these times. They thought it was more important to know futuristic events. So they pretended as though they were listening to Him, but looking off in the distance to try to gaze into the dimensions of the future to find out what was coming. But the Lord continued to speak about the mysteries of who He was. And the 8% was really listening to the Lord, and as they were listening, they began to glow and take on His very image and His nature. When He finished, He didn't say anything about who was listening and who was not, and dispersed them into their regions. And the 92% went into their region, and the 8% went into their region, just glowing with the glory of God and this fire and joy. The main thing that I noticed, that there was great joy upon them. And as they shared, they couldn't wait to share these wonderful things about Jesus. And when they would encounter people to tell them about the Lord, it wasn't just the revelations they would tell them. It was the heart that was burning in them that really caused the people to want what they had. It's almost like Christians got reborn. They wanted to tell things about the Lord instead of having to tell. And as they shared, these people as well started taking on the very image, the same nature, and wanted to obey, the Lord's statutes because of the things they started knowing about Him and their Father, their God. And it spread like wildfire. And then it switched over to the 92% who were prophesying things that were coming down into the future, that were coming in the future, and not prophesying not prophesying Jesus and the things that He wanted to be revealed about Him during these times. And as they prophesied to the people that they were dispersed to, they began to turn into this gray matter. They looked like their skin, their countenance turned gray, and their nature even changed. It went from being a normal person to being in panic and in fear and worry and what we would call these days concern. And it wasn't pointing them to the Lord or revealing the Lord. It was actually releasing fear. Now, these leaders didn't know that they were doing any harm. They really felt like they were doing the right thing. Even when they were standing before the Lord, they felt like they were doing the right thing, to gaze into the future instead of gaze in the eyes of the Lord. And so as they prophesied, a great gray matter type atmosphere started to appear on the people. And it was like a domino effect. People really were addicted to hear more about these things that were coming. People were panicking to get ready, but yet they didn't realize their heart was being tainted. But as the gray matter spread, the glory spread as well through those that were actually receiving the hearts and the revelation of Jesus. And at one point, this gray matter and the glory clashed. And there were several that were in the gray matter got to hear some of the mysteries of the Lord, and the fire that was upon the people that were sharing got upon them, and it delivered them from all fear. The love of God came into their hearts and cast out all their fear, and they started becoming joyous. Of course, there were some others, though, that heard the Lord, heard the revelations of the Lord, and just as the leaders, they didn't feel like it was that important, and they basically persecuted those that were actually telling everyone about Jesus during these end times. But after this experience, it shook me up to the point of, hey, I have really got to know the Lord during this time. And I started realizing if there's anything the end times point to is not getting ready first, but getting ready with Jesus. In other words, getting our hearts right with the Lord before we got our hearts right or prepared for the things that are coming. Because I can tell you, it doesn't matter how much you've prepared. He told me if you prepared for 10,000 years, Brad, you wouldn't make it when I came. And you wouldn't make it during these times that are coming upon us. Because, you know, man's going to lose his wits end if he's not in the mind of Christ. And we've got to get close to the Lord. Well, after that experience, I really started pondering these things. And I would say maybe a couple hours later, I got a phone call by several different leaders at different times. I couldn't believe that I just experienced this one thing, and then these leaders started calling, and they were all asking the same thing about the end times, you know, and most of them were worried. And after I got off the phone with them, we had great times. The Lord really woke us all up. And after I got off the phone with them, I just was a little bit frustrated, you know, because of the panic the enemy's trying to do in the encampment of Christians. And I said, Lord, you know, what is up? What is really going on here? And he said, oh, Brad, did you not know all of my prophecies come true? And when the Lord speaks to you, it wakes things up of who he is and what he has said, reveals understanding even of the Lord. And there were several things that went through my head. And I started realizing these things that are happening right now is things that Jesus has prophesied, not man. Jesus prophesied these back in Luke 21. You can look them up. Luke 21, 25 through 28. He even said it'd be as in the days of Noah. You know, Luke 17, 26 through 30. He even talked about the foolish, you know, virgins, some wise, you know, some foolish. One didn't have oil, the others did. You know, and then he said they'll say that he's out in the desert. They say he's over here. And he prophesied all of these things. You can look it up even in Matthew 24 about how they would say that he was there and he was here in the deserts. And you must be there. You must go. And he just said, don't go there. And one of the things that I started realizing is that, you know, he said it'd be in the days of Noah, and it is. Right now, you know, it's becoming more perverted than we've ever seen. And it's terrible looking at it from an earthly standpoint. But if you look back and see that Jesus prophesied these things, these are things that actually should be waking us up to really know that it's time to really know the Lord. There's an open heaven during this time that we've got to get our heads up. You know, there was even, and I'll even read it in Luke 21, 25. He said, and there will be signs in the sun, and the moon, and the stars, and on the earth distress of nations with perplexity, and the sea and the waves roaring, men's hearts failing them from the fear of expectation. That's happening right now. There's prophecies happening so much right now about the things that are coming. Fear is hitting people, and it's causing men's hearts to fail them. It's amazing. But the Lord prophesied these things. Then he says, then they will see the Son of Man coming in the cloud with power and great glory. Now, when these things begin to happen, look up physically, and then it says, and lift your heads because your redemption draws near. Now, right now, if you want to compare all the things that are happening, even some of the prophecies, you know, that are being heralded right now, that are not completely right. Some of them are, you know, maybe pointing to the Lord. Some of them are creating panic. But he prophesied to us that these types of things would happen. So we've got to blame it on the Lord. But instead of getting upset about the things that are being heralded, we ought to be seeing it as, wait a minute. The Lord prophesied that these types of things would happen. This is a sign to get our heads up and start looking for the Lord. Because this is the time where the Lord really wants to share these mysteries of who he is, so that we can prepare our hearts for the days to come. It's not about preparing physically, even though I'm all for preparing physically, But if we don't prepare our hearts first with Jesus, we will not make it physically. And one of the things I just wanted to share is that we've got to get right with Jesus. We've got to get back to him. I mean, you look at the foolish virgins. You know, some had the oil and the others didn't. And they wanted to use the ones that, when there was a call for the wedding, the ones that didn't have any oil wanted to use the others. And of course, the others said, we can't do that. You got to go buy some. And today, right now, that's happening. People are trying to ride on other people's oil, thinking that they're going to be able to get in through someone's coattail. And we can't do that. You won't get in. We've got to get with Jesus ourselves. We got to carry our own oil. This is the time. This is the time to really get close to the Lord. So if you look at all the things that are happening in the courts, the Supreme Courts, our government, other places, the perplexities that are happening upon the earth, things that are being prophesied, that's really a trumpet from the Lord's prophecies to really start looking at Jesus. So don't get upset with the prophecies that are happening. Don't get upset with some of the things that are happening, because it's the Lord that prophesied these things. And he said, when you see these things happen, get your head up. In other words, look for me, because I'll be coming. This is the time. This is the place and the season to get back to Jesus. So let's get back to the Lord. Hey, and just remember, prophecies, prophesying and prophecies, true prophecy points us back to Jesus. There's always hope, and there's always a revealing and understanding of Jesus. Remember that. Don't let fear grip you. And even if you hear a wrong prophecy, don't get upset with them. Look at it as a way to go. This is a real sign that I've got to get with the Lord, because he prophesied that these types of things would be prophesied and be heralded. So get in love with Jesus again, and let's follow him. Let's follow him together, and let's hear what he has to say. Let's don't peril into the future. Let's peril into the eyes of the Lord. Then with the things that we speak about, will reveal Jesus, and it'll cause the whole earth to turn to Jesus again, and we'll let the Lord handle what needs to be coming. And even while we're looking at the Lord, you will get tremendous understanding on how to get physically prepared. So look at the Lord, get with him, because this is the day. This is the day of the Lord. This is the day to get back with Jesus. All right. Hope you liked it. We love you. And Lord, I ask that you would bless these people that are listening. I ask that you'd allow their heads to get up, lift up their heads and lift up their minds to you, so that they can hear you and see you. Lord, let us not see that, and let our minds not get drifted off, or let the enemy come in when you're wanting to share about who you are. Let us not think that it's not important to hear about Jesus during these times. If there's any blueprint that we need, is the blueprint of your Son. So Lord, I ask that, Lord, when these type of distractions come, it would cause us all to really get focused to Jesus and not distracted. And as we share your name, as we share your revelations, people also will be changed, and so will we. Lord, we need you during this time. If there's anything we need our great general. We need our captain, Jesus Christ, to lead us into this victory. Bless you.